All right, ladies and gentlemen, obviously the biggest news story right now, it just hit the news yesterday. It's atrociously awful news. All right. Microsoft, which just bought Activision Blizzard King, right? The merger is currently in the processing stages of being, it is finalized, but they're basically adjusting everything internally. Microsoft has laid off 1,900 employees, mostly from Activision Blizzard. Tons of people in the industry just lost their jobs. They actually had one of the executives at Activision Blizzard, Mike Ibarra, he's gone. He got the axe. And tons of people under him and or teams who worked on those games are gone. There was a big game they've been working on for something like 6 years called Odyssey. They completely canceled the game and laid off the whole dev team. It was a survival game. I'm reading it right here. Let's see. Alan Adam, who was the chief design officer and the company's actual founder of Blizzard, has left as well. He's gone. And it was such a mess that the news of the layoffs hit the press before the employees knew. So the employees found out that they were probably going to get laid off by reading social media. It wasn't like they were told internally this is coming. It was this shocking thing that just happened out of nowhere. And so over the last 24 hours, people sitting at their desks at work nervously biting their fingernails, and then they get the email, you're basically out of here. Clean out your desk, HR comes by. Oh, I know, I've been through that. HR comes by. Sorry, we got to go to HR. You're being laid off. Pretty messed up. One of the most telling things, and boy, guys, when I'm right, and I don't like being right all the time, but I'm right on certain things, and sometimes people ignore me. All right, listen to this. Microsoft shut down the entire department that was dedicated to bringing Xbox games to physical retail. They laid them all off. There is literally not a single employee at Microsoft that will now make games physical copies anymore. What did I tell you guys? Just recently, right? We were talking about Alan Wake had no physical release, right? I mean, this is what's going to happen moving forward. These game companies no longer want to make physical copies of games. They just want to do everything digital. They feel like the majority of sales are digital, and no one is going to benefit from having a physical copy. Either you play the game digitally or you don't play video games. It's time to get used to it. First of all, one thing should be called out. Mobile games are the biggest video games in the world. They're the most profitable, and they have no physical copies. Okay? So that's just something that, it's an inevitability. When the biggest thing in the world for your genre or your style of entertainment is already digital only, then everything else is going to go that way. And that's really the thing, like, when you think about it. The entire industry, right, is going for cost cutting. They're trying to make maximum profits with minimum effort. I hate to say it, but that's what the direction the whole industry is going, right? This is one of the first things you're going to see. You're not going to be able to go to a store and buy a video game anymore. You just got to go to the digital marketplace, whether it's the PlayStation Store, the Xbox Live Store, the Nintendo Store, Steam, Epic Game Store, whatever it is, and you have to buy all your games off of there. There's nowhere else you'll be able to get video games. You're going to have to, and it's inevitable. Oh, but what about the fact that you don't own the game if you do the digital version? You don't own the game now. Just because you physically have a game in your hand, you don't own the game. You own a license to play that game. If you owned the game, you'd have the legal right to copy and resell it. You don't. You can't do that. So, you never owned the right to the game to begin with. That was just some weird, misconceived notion we all had in our heads for many years that we owned video games. We don't own any video games. We don't. Sorry. And now that everything is digital, we're going to have to get used to it if we're gamers. All right? Listen, I don't like it. I really don't like it. But that's just the way it's going, man. And there's nothing you can do about it. This is the industry. Microsoft don't give two shits. Right? They just don't care. And what's really fucked up about all of this is that now that this Activision Blizzard merger went through, they were literally just saying, hold on. They were literally just saying, isn't it messed up that Bobby Kotick, the former CEO of Activision Blizzard, who just left the company, got the axe in this merger, received a $400 million payout to leave. Do you think maybe some of the $400 million he received could have went to some employees so they didn't lose their jobs? Right? Because ultimately when you cut employees, it's because you're saying we're reforming, we're cost cutting, whatever. So why the fuck did he get a payout? It's just the whole industry and corporations in general are fucked. Like, the people who don't deserve it get it, and the people who need it the most, you know, who do you think really worked hardest at that company? Was it Bobby Kotick or all the people under him who made the games? It was the people who made the games. So he gets the reward, they lose their jobs. Wow, that makes a lot of sense, right? You would think that if you're in the middle of a giant industry-shaking merger, that things are going to go good for you. Why are you laying off almost 2,000 people? You know? It's fucked up. I don't know, man. But I always, in these cases, I gotta side with the game devs. You know? For as much as I play video games, and I rage at them, and I say, oh, this part sucks, what happened? You gotta understand that 99% of the time, the issue is not a game dev. The game dev wants to put out a good game for you. Do you really think there's a person who works at a game company, and they come in, and they sit down at their desk, and they go, time to make the shittiest game I can. Let's fuck it all up. Let's make sure there's huge game bugs. Your save's corrupt. That, you know, the camera's fucked. Let's do this. Right? No. They go in like everyone else. They go in with a feeling of positivity and fun. They want to make a great piece of art for you. They want to make a game you're truly going to enjoy. It's not their fault that the games come out sometimes the way that they do. Usually it's the management. You know, the Bobby Kodicks. That's usually the reason why the games come out like shit. Because these people impose ridiculous demands and you know, money-making criteria on these fucking games. Instead of just being able to make a good game, you gotta fucking get screwed over. And you gotta rush out a piece of junk so that it hits the right sales time and it could hit the bottom line of the company for the right quarter's financials, right? A lot of these companies have just lost their way when it comes to that. They don't understand if you just make a good game, you'll make the money. It's not about design the game for the money. It's design a great game, and then that game makes you the money. It's cause and effect. It's not make a game that prints money. You can't do that, you know? But these idiots in corporate positions don't get that. Hilarious that Bobby Kotick started off as like a beloved guy, and over the years everyone just hated him more and more. And then when he left the company, everyone just said, we have nothing good to say about this guy. So anyway, it sucks. I feel for all these employees, they don't deserve to lose their jobs because a merger went through, you know? This is what happened with me at the helicopter company. When I started working at HSI, everything was fine. And then basically what ended up happening was they kept downscaling our company. It was bought out by Sikorsky Aircraft, and then it just kept getting downsized, outsourced, outsourced. No one even works at that company anymore. Seriously, the entire company was outsourced. So, it's bullshit. It's a horrible corporate practice. Again, you would think if Microsoft's buying Activision Blizzard, this should mean good things for the company, not that so many employees are now losing their means of livelihood. Actually, you want to know what's even worse? Earlier in the week, Riot Games had a giant layoff of tons of employees. And I actually saw someone post up on social media. He says, so earlier in the week, we got word that Riot Games was laying off and I lost my job. And then my wife works for Activision Blizzard and she's like, oh, God, I hope that doesn't happen. And she lost her job. So now the entire family's unemployed. Great. It's pretty fucked up, right? It's pretty fucked up. You know, what is going on in this industry? You got to wonder, with so many people losing their jobs in the game dev industry, what's really going on? Was there a feeling of overexuberance where these companies were overspending and overreaching their bounds with unrealistic sales expectations for certain games that they were making? Did they really think, like, for example, Activision Blizzard, maybe they literally just thought every single game they ever made was going to be a hit, right? Maybe they thought every game we're going to release is going to be out of the ballpark smash hit. But then they did it, what was it, that Diablo re-release, and everyone hated that, right? It was Diablo 2. Everyone hated that. And Overwatch 2, everyone hated that, right? And, there's been struggles retaining members, subscriptions for things like World of Warcraft and stuff over time. So maybe that's what it is. Maybe they just all so massively expected that everything they ever did was going to be successful. And then they started actually having things that weren't so successful. And that's when you kind of flounder. And maybe that's what made the Activision Blizzard buyout possible to begin with, right? I don't know. This is all speculation. We're the people who play the games, right? We don't actually know what's going on behind the closed doors of these companies, but you got to wonder what's really happening at these companies that all these things are happening. Riot Games, I mean, let's be honest. Riot Games, that's League of Legends. That company is overbloated. I mean, I can't imagine why it ever was as successful as it was besides esports. Like, the esports thing blew it up so big with League of Legends. And now, we're going to do this spin-off, this mobile game over here, this over here. We're making a fighting game now. We're doing this. It's like, who's the audience for all of that? The same people who play League of Legends? I don't know. I get the feeling like Riot Games just massively overestimated. They were trying to ride this giant wave of popularity for one game and just overexpanded monstrously, right? And then it said, oh shit, actually no one's going to buy any of this shit that we're trying to put out. League of Legends still remains popular, but all the other shit on the periphery was never going to be that popular. And so a lot of people end up getting, laid off in the process, right? Oh, they made Valorant? I didn't even know they made Valorant. Okay, so Valorant, so they do have another game now that actually was very popular, Valorant. That's another one that I would never play. Very PC-centric, right? It's weird. A company like that that's so PC-centric, but got so popular based off of one game and blew up like that. Anyway, that's what's going on right now in the realm of gaming. You got tons of people losing their jobs left and right. Microsoft essentially is saying with their statement, laying off that whole team, we're just not going to make physical games anymore. Deal with it. Everything's digital. And everyone's kind of like, oh, crap, what's going to happen? Right? Yeah.